Hi everybody, welcome back to Indycar on Monday morning. My name's Gordon Ross. Today's subject, I'm talking about exports and how the UK plans to survive after Brexit. This morning on Radio 4, there was a programme called Start the Week, which is hosted by Kirsty Wart on the BBC. And during this programme, there was a variety of different guests on the show, but one in particular was an economist who's just published a book. She was asked how the British economy is set up and why it seems to be that it is underperforming so badly. Why is productivity in the UK so low? And her explanation was that a large proportion, almost 80 or 90% of the English and Welsh economy is in fact made up of service industries. Things like insurance companies, but all kinds of companies that supply services to people inside the UK. Now, if you think about this for a moment, services are what you might call an intangible type of product. A service is something that you do for somebody, obviously. It's not a product which you develop, manufacture and sell. It's not like produce, not like food, it's not like whiskey, it's not like engineering. It is a service. And during the 1980s, the Conservative government under the then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher decided to close down all the nationalised industries in the UK and to sweep them away, sell off everything that they could, and whatever was left would be allowed to either wither and die or fight for its survival on the open market. What that meant was that 90% of the British economy was wiped out. All of the exporting businesses went to the wall, all the large engineering firms, coal exports, steel making, car manufacturing, shipbuilding, all of these things suffered terribly. And thousands of companies went to the wall, and we ended up with what I call the burger van and car wash economy. The economy that was left after this terrible vandalism was basically people selling each other food and washing each other's cars, because a lot of folk who had jobs in the manufacturing industry had nothing, and the only way they could make a living was by either washing cars, grooming dogs, or selling burgers to people out of vans. So the economy eventually started to recover. And what has happened is that in England, the service economy took off in a big way. Thousands of jobs were generated in insurance companies, banking, investment companies, investment banks. All kinds of different products, all kinds of different services and call centres were developed, and the internal economy of the United Kingdom boomed. House prices shot up, but we weren't exporting anything. We were basically being very, very busy selling each other services. So the internal economy got very overheated. But meantime, in Scotland, where the jobs had been removed and there was nothing left to take their places, people in the engineering industry, shipbuilding industry, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment and general manufacturing got up off their knees and rebuilt the Scottish manufacturing base. And so, although it is at a lower ebb than it was before, it is now a lot stronger. Not only do we manufacture whiskey, and not only do we sell thousands and thousands of tons of salmon, especially in the Far East, we're one of the biggest salmon and food exporters anywhere in Europe, but we also have a shipyard which manufactures ships for the Ministry of Defence and other overseas clients, such as the Middle Eastern countries who are looking for gunboats or patrol ships or whatever. So it's not just the Ministry of Defence. Also, we have a burgeoning electronics industry. We have a massive bus building centre with Alexander Dennis. We have huge medical equipment and medical research centres. We have an absolutely buoyant computer gaming industry which has world-beating games and making billions of pounds for the economy. On top of all that, we have other tangible assets. As we know, I've mentioned this many times before, we have probably the biggest green energy resource anywhere in Western Europe, and we're sitting on top of at least 25% of the renewable energy reserves for Western Europe. So Scotland is in a place where it exports far more than it imports, and it has always done this ever since records began. And Scotland is the only country of the four nations, if you want to call them nations, of the four regions, if you like, of the United Kingdom, which has always managed to make more money from exports than it does, makes more money from exports than it does from importing. So our balance of trade has always been a plus. We always make a profit on the things that we export. We don't import as much as we export. So how does this leave things? Well, on this programme with Kirsty Wark, she asked this expert economist how the British economy, meaning the English economy, could be quantified. How could you measure the amount of work being done, the amount of good or the amount of money and wealth being generated by these service industries? And her answer was, well, you can't, because there isn't any way of measuring that. She said, but if we want to increase the output and want to increase the figures, then what we need to do is change the way we measure the success of the service industries. Now, when I thought about this for a moment, what she's actually saying is, in order to make British productivity look better, the only way to do that is to change the way you measure it. In other words, to move the goalposts so that British services as an industry start to look more productive. But when I thought about this a little bit further, it began to dawn on me that what they were proposing to do was to tell a massive lie to the United Kingdom. By moving the goalposts and changing the way they measured the success of service industries across the UK, they were going to make it look as though the UK's success rate in its service industries and exporting its services was far higher than it actually is. Productivity can be measured in lots of different ways, but in terms of a general economy of a country, it is based on its balance of trade. How much do we export, how much do we import, and what is the difference between those? Scotland has always had a surplus. England has always had a deficit, and a large deficit. It has always imported far more than it exports. And now that its economy is 80 to 90% service industries, what is left of manufacturing is not enough for England to survive with a plus balance. It will never have anything other than a deficit unless they start to manufacture more. This means that Scotland is in a far stronger position economically than the rest of the United Kingdom, because it rebuilt its economy, because the people in Scotland realised that they would need to export more than they import. The economy was rebuilt with a much larger percentage of its economy based on manufacturing and exporting, both food, textiles and engineering, but also exporting energy is going to become the business of the future. Not only do we have oil, which is a great resource, but it's a resource which is damaging the planet. There is far more energy tied up in the moving ocean and the winds across the country than there is even in the oil fields at the moment. Oil is a terrific resource for chemicals and for other useful compounds. But the problem, as we know, is that oil generates pollution. It makes air pollution, it produces nitrogen dioxide, it causes acid rain, it causes lung problems, and also it pollutes the sea with plastic and oil spills. So it's a dirty, nasty, unpleasant material to deal with. But Scotland has not only brilliant manufacturing and exporting, it has these huge resources at its disposal, waiting for the investment to come in so that we can capitalise on that even more and increase the trade surplus that we currently have. However, we cannot do this at the moment because under British rules, if you like, the petrochemicals industry, the hydrocarbons industry, that's oil, gas, coal, and onshore and offshore wind, and renewable energy of all kinds, and nuclear are all under the control of Westminster at the moment. Scotland can only be successful and be the wealthiest country in the world if it separates itself from what is left of the British economy. The British economy is in two parts. It has somewhere in the region of 9/10 of it makes no profit. The other 10th, Scotland, makes profit, and it always has done. If Scotland separates from the 9/10, which is sucking all of the benefits from Scotland's exports away, Scotland will be far wealthier, even though it hasn't fully developed all of its resources yet. Just separating from the United Kingdom will increase Scotland's growth rate almost instantaneously, because we will not have that wealth being sucked away down to the south. It will not be removed in taxation, it will not be removed in revenue and not returned to us as it is at the present time. The choice facing Scots in the next year, when we are offered the chance to vote to dissolve the Union, is quite a simple one, and other people have made it already in posts online today. The choice is very simple. Be the wealthiest small country in Europe as an individual nation, or stay with the United Kingdom and go down the toilet with it, because the United Kingdom is isolating itself. It's putting all its eggs into the American basket. The Americans are pulling up the drawbridge, and Trump is putting in place isolationist policies. These are policies which will put huge taxes on anything imported into the United States from the UK. Any trade deal that we have with the United States will mean lower standards, lower safety standards, lower food standards, lower hygiene standards. It means that everything that we have worked so hard to do to raise the quality and the standard of our exports will be slashed, it will be gone. And not only that, but any trade deal with the United States will be to the detriment of us. They will sell our NHS, the American healthcare companies will swoop in and buy up our hospitals and our doctor surgeries and start charging us a fortune. And this is what the Tories would like Britain to be. The Tories would like Britain to be the 51st state of the United States, where we tie everything to the United States and we abandon Europe completely, and we abandon all the other trade deals that we have in favour of throwing in our lot with President Trump, who changes his mind on a minute-by-minute basis. America is a company that's run on Twitter. It's not even a government anymore, it's a one-man whim that is running America, and the Tories want us to throw our lot in with that. I would say to everybody who is a Scottish voter at the moment that as soon as the referendum is called, switch off your television sets and stop buying newspapers. Take all your news from online sources like this, go to RT, go to Al Jazeera, and go to all the foreign European television stations, newspapers and online magazines. Completely abandon the British press, because it is simply going to peddle these lies to you about how wonderful Britain is going to be. And it's not going to be a brilliant Britain. It is going to simply just go down the toilet, because the British economy, as I said, is based on burgers and car washing. It's based on selling things to each other inside the UK, and it's not based on exports. Scotland is far, far stronger than the rest of the United Kingdom. We have to stop thinking of ourselves as being too small, too stupid, and too poor. We are none of those things. We are far stronger than the rest of the UK. We are far wealthier than the rest of the UK, and we have the best education system anywhere on the planet. The smartest people in the world come from Scotland. Scotland virtually invented the entire modern world. Television, telephones, the steam engine, steamships. We invented the MRI scanner. We invented just about everything that is any use in the world that makes the modern world work. We invented it. And because of that, and because of the way Scottish people are educated and the way we think, we are not too small, we are not too poor, and we certainly are not too stupid. But there are some people who still don't see it. Do you want to live in the wealthiest country in Europe and be safe and secure and have a job for life and a proper career, or do you want to throw in your lot with the Tories and hope for the best that Brexit will somehow turn out okay? Well, I know what I'm going to do. I am not going to risk my family's future on staying in the UK. If the Brexit bill, the repeal bill, is forced through without Scottish consent, and with the Scottish EU bill coming up, and once it's ratified and passed into law in Scotland, any move to steamroller anything through against the will of the Scottish people will be a major breach of the Acts and Treaties of Union. And that is excuse enough for us to say, right, that is it. We're calling a referendum, it's happening in a few weeks' time, and we're going to vote to dissolve this union because you've broken every single rule and every single promise you made, and therefore the deal is off. People of Scotland have had enough, and it's time for us to leave. You go your own way, we'll go ours. We'll take what's ours, you take what's yours, and good luck to you. Because I think everybody has had enough of it. There is no way that the British economy is able to support itself through Brexit, and therefore there is no way Scotland should stay in the UK and go down with the ship. Not when we have so much going for us, so much wealth. We are sitting on top of an island of coal, on a sea of oil and gas, surrounded by moving water and wind. We are in the most energetic and the most wealthy part of Western Europe, and we don't see it. We think we have to kowtow to what Westminster says, that we think that Westminster is somehow supporting us. No. We are supporting them, and we have been doing so for the better part of the last century or so. And it's time that people woke up and realised that Scotland is not the weak country. It's the reverse. Scotland is the strong country. Scotland is the clever country, and Scotland is the wealthy country. It's the rest of the United Kingdom that has the problem, not us. I'm off now. I've had a good rant today, but I got angry today when I heard this woman on Kirsty Work show saying that they should measure British productivity by moving the goalposts to make it seem better. Frankly, I think that is just typical of the British establishment. When something doesn't suit them, they just change the rules so it looks better. Just invent another lie to sell to the public. Well, I'm telling you now, when this referendum comes, turn your televisions off, throw your newspapers in the bin, and stick to online only. Do not listen to the media in the UK. They are spouting the biggest load of crap ever invented in order to try and persuade you that the United Kingdom is going to be great again. It just isn't. Anyway, I'm off. I will talk to you again later. As usual, if you have any comments about the show, please contact me afterwards. And keep sharing, please, and especially if you're watching this on YouTube, please share as widely as you can. We're trying to get the show out to as many people as possible. Bye for now.